proliferate out of these organizations that are linked to the United Nations and the various kind of climate change initiatives and NGOs, the Quango network, the World Economic Forum, Bank of International Settlements, this whole very intricate web of organizations. When you read those frameworks, I think for a even vaguely sentient, intelligent person, it's just obvious. The words are just nonsense from beginning to end. There's this kind of weird overlapping, interlocking jargon that comes at you. But you can't approach those texts with any fear of ever losing the perception that they're just nonsense from beginning to end, that there isn't a shred of intellectual or ethical respectability to the philosophy, the logic, the content of those texts. And I ask myself the question, well, is that a perception in the minds of the authors of those texts? Or are they in the grip of a certain kind of madness? Are they hypnotized by some very bad ideas? I think that's kind of the starting point.
I fight away from, 5 years ago, I didn't think any of these thoughts that I have now. And I keep on trying to kick away from and swim back from conclusions that I don't want to come to. But increasingly, it seems to me that there's an element of destruction for destruction's sake. Yes. And as I say, I keep trying to swim away from that because I can't imagine wanting to destroy just for the sake of destruction. But increasingly, I do wonder. And again, this is where you start swimming into the sea that's infested with conspiracy theories, so-called. And I'm not being dismissive or pejorative about conspiracy when I say that. But do you, subscribe to the notion that there is a group, a cabal, an elite cohort that's collaborating and cooperating in any way, or do you think that's just no, not at all?
No, I think it's probably more accurate to say that there are lots of elite cabals, and always have been. I actually find it, it's to believe otherwise is patently ridiculous. History is one long story of elite cabals duking it out and manipulating populations and manipulating enemy populations and so on. This is just what history is, that story of the elite cabals. So I don't find it kind of, the work that the conspiracy theory label does is to actually end analysis of history, because it's all about the story of rulers and their machinations. You don't study France without studying Napoleon and his intrigues and plots and so on. So to me, it goes without saying that there are elite cabals and they manipulate populations, and it has always been thus. That's not the interesting part, though. For me, there's a cluster of ideas which we can call utopian collectivism. It's as a single sort of motivating principle. Utopian collectivism is one of the worst ideas in history. It's probably the worst idea in history. It's been proven incorrect as a motivator, or at least incompatible with human flourishing, time and time again. And yet the idea persists. And there's always a kind of this time is different aspect to it. And in the current instantiation of this drift towards utopian collectivism, the this time is different component is now we have data. We've got, because of the Internet of Things and our data centers, we've got the data, and so that changes our ability to control things from the center. It's going to be better this time. Whereas, of course, history is littered by people who made similar claims that their levels of technology had enabled them to implement a program of utopian collectivism with beneficial results for humanity, when in fact there will never be such technology. It's incompatible at with basic logic. So we know at a very detailed level where the utopian collectivism fallacy breaks down. We know why it breaks down. We know what its illogicalities consist of. But that just doesn't seem to stop the idea. And what collects around that set of ideas of collectivism is, well, you need to have a rationale for imposition, a rationale for control frameworks and for authoritarian clampdowns on really all aspects of human freedom. You can't achieve collectivism without that. And
I think it comes. I think paradoxically, although it's always pitched as being for the common good, it's always there. If you bear with me, we'll get to a better place. Whatever this collectivist utopia or whatever. But I think, ironically or paradoxically, it's actually driven by a fear of people. If not, and that's why I always keep coming back to this anti-human agenda. I think the levers of power are in the hands, and perhaps to some extent have always been in the hands of people who are motivated more than anything else by fear of other people. And their fear of other people manifests in, well, at the very least, we've got to get control of these creatures, because if we don't, they're going to hurt us. So there's something of the nub of the problem there for me, that we're dealing with anti-human agenda. And of course it's artificial intelligence and technology that's becoming our identifiable foe, because it's against the biological flesh and blood human being. People who prefer the company of machines and technology over their messy, wet flesh and blood humanity with all its flaws.
I think there's a tendency, there's a certain species of thinker that's perhaps more dominant at certain points in the cycle of empire than in others. And that species of intellect thinks about the world in terms of, look, there are these problems, but there's no need for the problems. If only I could get these creatures to behave themselves and to do certain things, they would see how wonderful and beneficent the system that I have in mind is, and how well everybody would do, how beautiful the planet would be. And I think those people, what they suffer from is a failure to appreciate the consequences of complexity and a delusion that they are able to control complex systems. And so it's a type of stupidity, because it's not intellectually difficult to understand that complexity at a point is irreducible, that all sorts of systems embed vast complexity, and that attempts to intervene in complex systems are riddled with downside in terms of unintended consequences or second-order effects that were not predicted, and so on. And attempts to meddle with complex systems over history have generally been greeted with disaster. These are not difficult things to understand.
I'm actually recording this. I was going to make some comments earlier on, but I was waiting for Neil Oliver to say the part about, this build back better thing, well, wanting to destroy things and then rebuild it better again. But then they got onto this subject of the Klaus Schwab's kind of vision. The thing is, Schwab wants to plug himself into everyone so then they can kind of somehow have a direct link to what they're thinking and feeling. The problem with that is, I actually truly think that these WEF people want everyone to think and feel what they think and feel, not the other way around, because maybe they are dim, maybe they are a bit stupid, and maybe if they plug themselves into everyone else, because Schwab was actually saying this, maybe then they'd have a shock when maybe eventually these people like, Starmer and so forth actually maybe they would actually eventually learn. Maybe they would become enlightened, and maybe that would be the actual solution or the cure when these people plug themselves into everyone else and suddenly realise. But I think when you're just talking about complex systems now, very complex computer systems and AI and so forth, the problem with that is every single this phone that I'm holding and my computer monitor, all the tech things that we've got are completely and totally controllable. Every achievement that these people have made, the tech people, it is a vast complexity, but it's made and created by a creator to follow a command prompt and to do as told. And I think the thing with these World Economic Forum type people, and I suppose Starmer's thrown in with that, and Tony Blair as well, humans are free because they've got free will. And they don't do exactly as they've got their own opinion, like in voting. You can vote this way or that way. Ultimately, if you believe in these complex systems but which follow command prompts, then you don't actually believe in a voting system or democracy. And that is, and therefore when you've got an entire population that it's got its own unique opinion and own unique views and own unique characters and own unique personalities, right? They're not going to have the same ideas or the same opinion and the same views. They're going to have completely different ones, right? And this is why now the tech people are getting very much into this like and don't like, thumbs up, thumbs down, because in their command prompt version of life, in their command prompt version of reality, if they can, the thing about humans is what makes them a free will is they like different things and they don't all like the same thing, right? Now, when you try and use these complex systems to change their likes and dislikes and get them to all like the same thing, you head into uniformity. And uniformity is like military uniformity, right? And then you've got all like uniforms, you've got rank and file, you've got command. If you don't have people all liking the same thing, and if you have people liking different things, then you have everyone is unique. Now, the thing with that model is that you get nature. That's how nature happened, with the freedom to evolve differently. That's why you've got all the different species, all the different plants, all the different insects, animals. And reality, as you know, is a balance in nature between the laws of nature, which have some uniformity to them, because you can only do, you can only work within gravity unless. But the thing is, then you start to defy gravity. So you've got freedom within the restrictions of command prompts of the law. I think it was Tess Lowry, actually, Dr. Tess Lowry, was talking about, in one of her videos on her Twitter, she was talking about, what is it to go out into space and evolve as a species and so forth. What I actually asked her on her Twitter to think about is, the thing is, when you go closer to the sun, you get more movement because everything gets hotter and warmer, and it allows for more movement and more gaseous movement. But then when you get too close to the sun, then it literally starts burning itself up. The further you go out into deep space, when it's colder, you don't actually have any movement at all because it's cold and it freezes. And when you freeze, then you've just got solid frozen ice, right? There is no movement. The molecules don't move as much. There's less freedom for movement. Now, what I explained to Tess Lowry about, I'm sure she's intelligent enough to understand this, but I just pointed it out to her because it was on point of what she was asking. She asked the question, and I said to her that, so on the whole thing of Elon Musk, what Elon Musk wants to do, right? So to go out into space and flourish and evolve, even as kind of machines or robots, like we send these satellites out there, we've managed to make satellites that don't completely freeze up in space, and like they can operate, they can twist, they can move, they've got mechanical movements to them, even though they're in complete and total deep space at ridiculous temperatures, right? But it's unlikely that there's life out in, if you have frozen non-movement out in deep space, right? It took a atmosphere and planet which, as it follows the laws of physics, but the laws of physics were loosened up and relaxed enough for a flourishing freedom, a balance between freedom to do what it wants, to evolve into different creatures and different things, but under the laws of physics. And then we evolved and created life, and then we made machines which can move, and then you send those machines out into space. Now, whether Elon Musk makes Optimus and sends Optimus out into space or not, right? Optimus didn't come from deep space, and Optimus then wouldn't have evolved in deep space with this deep freeze, this lack of movement, because it's cold. You only get more movement when you get closer to heat and suns, right? So it's not like Optimus wouldn't have come from deep space. He wouldn't have evolved from there, even if he didn't need oxygen on this planet to breathe. He would have come from a place of oxygen because the creatures that made him need oxygen, right? So if Optimus goes out into deep space, even if he doesn't freeze and completely seize up and can't move because we made him to be able to do that, and even if he's got solar panels when he goes closer to suns and charges up, he didn't come from that place we're sending him to, right? So it took freedom and movement in a planet which is the right distance from the sun, which is the right temperature to allow frozen non-movement to loosen up and then move freely, right? So this is the thing. Now, the thing with Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum is that they do want uniformity. They want humans to have uniformity, really. They want more uniformity. They're not happy with the current levels of freedom in the human race, because the China system, the social point system in China, is an example of their trying to get the Chinese people to behave more uniformly, not individually and under freedom. They want them all to conform to a behaviour, right? So that's that they don't think the current society should be as free. They want it to be more uniform, right? Yet humans wouldn't have evolved to what we are without freedom of evolution, right? Now, the problem is with Klaus Schwab and his whole ideology and plans is that these people don't like people. The thing with humans is humans have sentimental value. They've got memory, history. It's an aspect of humans that is like the charm, the character, the nature, and so forth. And one of the Klaus Schwab guys, that guy with the glasses on and the bald head, the guy who's always talking about, some of the things that this guy's just been talking about now, is that they actually, he was talking about, the way that he talked, and I can probably search his name and find it for you, but you probably know which guy I mean. It's that guy that everyone's been pointing out, with the glasses and the bald head, who's a nutcase, right? They actually devalue, emotion or feeling. He narrows feeling down to just an electrical impulse, basically. When you've got an emotion, right? So if you're angry at something, he just explains it as, well, your body is just reacting this way and generating these chemicals, and this is just a feeling, nothing more. So what he's actually doing, he's actually devaluing how you feel about something and what you think about something, really, just down to biological impulse, and it's no big deal. And that's really how scientists treat lab animals, experimental, rodent ranchero in the lab rats and all that, and, experimental animals, and the thing with that is, it's actually devaluing what it is to be human. And then these people then think that, just because you're an electrical impulse, then, he wants, to change your behaviour or whatever a certain way. And it really actually evades the point of being human. And ironically, some of these people are trying to get machines to think and feel so that they can be like humans, which is ironic because he's saying that it's not actually anything to be valued about. And the thing is, there's a lot of people now making money. There's a lot of people in business and profits and this fake inflation and so forth. The problem is, if you're happy with everything you've got and it's not worn down, it's not broken, you don't really need any new things. And if you've got things that your family had that you don't want to get rid of, that's sentimental, you want to keep them. And if you've got nice, beautiful things... Now, this draws me into kind of like the Labour Party, and this draws me into Keir Starmer, right? And what Neil Oliver said about Build Back Better. Some things don't need to be built back better, right? Let's just look at North Yorkshire, right, or Northumberland. There's hardly any building there compared to the rest of the country. It's got the most untouched countryside. Now you've got all these villages. Now, I like pretty villages. I like cottages. I like, the Cotswolds and so forth. We actually don't have that many old buildings in West Yorkshire because they knocked them all down. And the south of England's always kind of had more beautiful houses anyway. Some people say that Yorkshire has got nice buildings and houses, but not as many as down south. They made a lot of milling industry up here. So the Labour Party, to do with old-fashioned things, it's all like mills and mill cottages. Not quite as nice as down south, but we do have some, but it's still getting spoiled. The very few that we have seems to be getting buried in with all the the shrapnel of mix and match or whatever. But I truly don't think that Labour and Keir Starmer agenda is to keep, protect, or have nice places like that. I think that it's a new world order where they like the city, they like bigger houses. I mean, some of these buildings and cottages aren't big, they're small, but how big a house do you need? I mean, this is why I like Verb's channel, because Verb's doesn't have that much of a massive house, and he promotes and advocates quite a small house, particularly when he's got his kitchen on there. The thing about those, we're not talking about Liverpool or, some places in Liverpool or Walsall or wherever, all these terrace rows, right? Where, okay, they don't have a garden and it is, some of those areas are in poverty, right? I'm not picking on those people at all. I'm not blaming those people for anything that they've done wrong or anything whatsoever. But I'm just talking about the general face of the country, right? There are houses or villages or places that haven't really changed at all since the 1600s, right? And those people have usually been perfectly happy with where they live and still happy with it now, without anyone trying to get them to build a conservatory or change anything or do anything. In fact, anyone who lived in Coventry or anywhere in a row of terrace houses that don't have a garden would be more than happy or pleased to suddenly, someone give them a house in North Yorkshire with a lovely cottage in the country with a little garden and fields near it, with a nice steady life. No, I don't think anyone would complain about that from Liverpool, Coventry, Walsall, wherever, right? But Starmer, this Build Back Better, I just don't think that they think that that's good or nice or ever was. These people, the houses that they're building people now, they're going for this kind of like American, Australian thing with big, like 8 rooms in the house, or even, bigger front room for a bigger TV, and all these other things, that they're going to try to get. And they're wanting people to go for that bigger, when it's just not needed or necessary. And the thing is that I actually think that, the point in Labour, the point in the Labour Party, it got everyone to do what it wanted. It got everyone to go into work and build and make things, right? And those people never really got any well, a lot of these people go on holidays and go on cruises, and they do have lives and do things, but some of the actual areas that they live in aren't necessarily, probably what they would have hoped or dreamed for. But that's the whole story of, Cadbury's and Bourneville. It was a village near Birmingham, and then it suddenly ended up becoming part of the urban sprawl. It was beautiful in the start, and then as it had more and more success, it got built up and round it. So really, it's actually retrograde, really. It's gone. It was better when it started to what it is now, basically. It was better when it just started up and was doing quite well until it was too much. And I think now this Build Back Better, what Starmer really wants to do is he wants to go into these areas that are on the verge or the edge and build more houses, or allow up building right in the countryside where there's nothing. And then really he wants to completely demolish all those areas, really. He wants to erase them. He wants to completely vanish all the poverty areas and start from scratch. That basically means that the workers fulfilled their task. That class of people served a purpose, did a job, and it got all the big people rich. It got all the the barons and lords loads of money and land. It made all these hadron colliders, satellites, Elon Musk, Facebook, all the tech. And what did they get from it? Well, they've got areas that are fighting and arguing, and there's crime and now riots and so forth. Some of the workers, these pensioners that Keir Starmer saying is pledged to, they get, their working men's club with a little bowling green, and they get their, well, they've even taken the post office away from them where they used to go socialise. They haven't really actually got them really happy. And now they're saying Build Back Better. Well, if you Build Back Better, but they never made it better. I don't really think they ever made it better. You see, those places those rural places that were nice and steady, they've always been decent. Now, you can get Andrew Bridgen saying, "Oh, we never had electricity, and my dad had a bad back, and we lived in a cottage, but it was crap." You get these rebound people where it was so bad when they grew up that they bounce and they just shoot through the roof, right? And they've had so little in life. They're like people like Andrew Bridgen. They're like these exploders. They've had such a crap, hard upbringing that they shoot through the top of the roof, basically, and it's just way too much. But you don't have to have no electricity at all, and it's unfortunate that Andrew Bridgen's dad was, did have a crippled back, but he's not the person who really advocates living in the countryside and villages. But so there are places that have always been nice, and they've not needed to be better, but they weren't crap or rubbish ever. They were just what we call normal and all right. And the problem is that all these skyscrapers in tech and futuristic buildings and so forth and so forth. Look at the Middle East, in Iraq. You've got all these. Look at all the cities in Iran and Iraq that are completely bombed and blitzed from inner turmoil and war. They built massive cities. They built lots of modern cities, and a lot of them are all bombed from war. And that's because those people themselves can't get along with each other. Now, this is why we've got issues. In Ireland now, they're complaining about racism, right, in Ireland and in England as well. Now, the problem is that the Keir Starmer and the World Economic Forum, they've got this policy of completely arms open to all religions, ethnicities, races, and so forth, right? We've got to accept, absorb, and embrace them, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But that's actually, if you look at France, I mean, Italy doesn't seem to do too bad. But if you look at France, there's more and more disorder. The problem is that certain types of people do get along better. And it's clearly evident that we're going the way of more disorder, and now they're having to bring more measures in. But they've actually caused and done that, and it's not our fault, but we're getting blamed for it. Even Keir Starmer now, the television, all of these riots, because of that issue that happened in Southport, it's framed and promoted by the news that caused the riots, right? It's actually, Keir Starmer now is reckoning he's going to change the laws and clamp down hard on people, but his news programmes, his media, right, they are framing the events of what's happening and actually causing the riots because they're putting it on the main news, and this is the response to it. So it's actually, I think Starmer and the news are actually framing the whole thing and they are actually causing the riots, and it's not the people's fault. They're actually framing it, and then they're saying that we can't go film everything, we can't go comment on anything, we can't even film things raw and live, when Black Belt Barrister's saying that you can film what you want as long as it's raw footage and being reported or whatever, you know. Starmer wants to frame Starmer wants to be the narrator and frame the story just like he frames a case in court. He only wants to include what evidence he wants to include, even though there's certain rules and regulations that I'm sure he's been breaking them. He wants to win the case on the evidence presented and the rules in the court. He knows them off by heart and he can play the courtroom. And this is how Starmer's now playing it on the news. Starmer wants to frame all the news programmes to the narrative that how he wants it to be seen and framed, just like he frames his cases in court. And that is actually provoking the response and allowing him to come down even harder. It's almost kind of like, if you struggle, then we can charge you with more crimes. We can charge you with contempt of court. We can charge you with resisting arrest. The more you struggle, the more will go down on you. But then he's framing it all so people are going to, because they don't actually agree with what's happening or like it. When they've got a political right to oppose it, it's not criminal law. It's actually what's happening out there in the world is now up on the political board, on the political agenda. It's not criminal law. We've got into politics. People are responding politically, not criminally. Starmer's a criminal lawyer. He did do civil law. This is now politics, political response. It's not criminal law. People have got a right to respond in matters of church, state, or law, right? And when Starmer's changing the law, when people don't like it, it's a matter of law. Starmer's not in a criminal courtroom now. He's in Parliament. So he's trying to run the country as a criminal lawyer through the CPS. He's a Prime Minister when it's a totally different jurisdiction and rules. I mean, that Gareth Johnson wanted to stop ULEZ and Labour just talked for ages and went over time. So they couldn't do it. That's one rule in Parliament, It's completely different rules to criminal law. Like election petitions, there's different rules to criminal law, but I don't know what the hell was happening with Robert F. Kennedy in America. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got advised to, say that he lived in New York by the highest attorney in ballot access. Why didn't the highest attorney in ballot access advise Kennedy to go to make a federal question case to the federal court and say, hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I want to fairly compete as an independent for president. What should I put on my address? Because I need to try and get on the ballot in every state. And then the answer by the federal judge, then that's what he should have gone with. And then if any other judges challenge him, then if a federal judge has told him what to do, what are you going to say to other judges? Then that would put the other judges on the spot. Not this top advising attorney. So he really can't be the top advising attorney in America, because the best thing to do with a judge is give you, I did what the other judge said, Your Honour. I'm just told to what I've been ordered to do. That's what's the point in a federal question? If there was any federal question to ask in the history of the United States of America, when you're running for president of the United States of America, it will be the federal question of, Your Honour, what the fuck should I put on my address if I want to compete in all the states to become the president fairly, But what is the question, oh great one? I'm off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz, who's the man behind the curtain, some New York, some New York judge, Pimpernel, and then it's costing them an extra £10 million. But yeah, it shouldn't cost them any money because the original Constitution of America is write down the name of the person you want to be president. There is no ballot access. There is no legal cases. There is nothing except, challenging it on whether it was run legitimately or not, the process. So, you write down the name of the person you want to be president. Well, how do I know who should write down? Well, they're all trying to, a bit of self-promotion. All you have to do is say, here I am, vote for me at the end of the day, and that's it. What are all these cases and ballot access? It all seems tosh to me because, everyone just turns up on voting day and writes down who they want to be president. Done. Where are all these 10 million cases coming from? It seems to me like they've invented themselves a little side business out of these presidential runs. But anyway, so, and then going back to this whole immigration and racial issue. So the current government, Priti Patel, Rishi Sunak, Suella Braverman, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Keir Starmer, all these politicians, their agenda is embrace all religions, embrace all cultures, right? Yet, that is accepting people because they are different in some way, or they've got a different religion in some way, or they've got a different culture or appearance in some way. Yet, they're trying to bring in new laws so we all behave identical, similar, within constraints, within more and more, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, no, you shouldn't look like this, no, you shouldn't like that. They've got this counter motion and they need to reconcile it because they're doing more and more laws where you can't behave this way or that way, but that's because these cultures that they're making a legal requirement for us to embrace and accept naturally, religiously, and physically behave differently, right? By nature and tradition and religion. And we have to accept them in. As we have to accept them in, it's illegal not to. Then they're making us all come within more and more restrictions on behaviour, conduct, and what you can think and respond. So, actually, they're not wanting us to behave more differently, have religious opinions more differently, character more differently, They actually really want us to be more uniform and the same. And this is why Starmer is walking around with black frame glasses, because he knows the whole framework is corrupt and bad, but he's hiding behind these black frame spectacles, his new prop, which is just, it's worse than wearing a squirty flower on your chest. It's worse than Jiminy Cricket wearing his left boot on his right foot and his right boot on his left foot. It's more joke than that. I mean, he might as well have... he might as well be the Mark Zuckerberg's Ray-Bans that he's got on. I mean, is he a new secret agent or something? Has Starmer got some MI5? Boris Johnson didn't want an MI5 phone. I think that those glasses Starmer's got are like MI5 glasses. I think he's got like a tracking beacon inside them probably, and he's probably got a little laser like James Bond in the other side of it or something. Probably Mark Zuckerberg probably would be, having a spanking himself or something over him, Oh, it's the most badass thing that I've ever seen. Donald Trump getting shot. It was badass. It was badass according to Zuckerberg, but apparently, Keir Starmer's like, well, Mark, you thought your Ray-Bans were badass. You ain't even seen what my glasses can do. He's probably got a moped inside it that it's like Sport Billy that grows bigger or something. If you like the Queen's disability thing that she had towards the last days, she ran a disability MI5 disability car or something. The problem is that they're doing this lie where they're pretending that they are accepting and welcoming everyone, but as they're making us criminals if we don't accept the diversity and spectrum of all these other people who behave differently and see life differently and have religions differently, right? And at the same time as they're saying you will accept this diversity of humans in, or you're a criminal, at the same time they're saying, right, now all these people, including you, now you will all conform to these new laws we're putting in behaviour, which is to narrow the spectrum of behaviour down at the same time as they're saying to us, you will accept a more diverse behaviour spectrum in, which is completely and totally, it's not compatible. It's incompatible, right? It is completely and totally incompatible, and they're punishing us for it, and the crime's gone up through the roof. And I actually think, I do believe they're using this. There's some sort of deal with Putin and the Europe to use these war victims in order to cause trouble, to introduce more and more surveillance measures, which they just want to do because that's the way their tech's going, and they like it. Oh yeah, I like this spying, I like this more information. The platforms have got more information on his phones and so forth, but they're clearly using it. I've been erased. I've had 10 years of my life erased, 10 years of my memories and good times erased, but also my hard times, but my investigation, finding my scratch card, 10 years of my life erased because I uploaded one video which I didn't even publish to the public, which wasn't even illegal in this country or America, just because of a policy. And they're stealing 10 years of my actual possessions, which actually even a criminal court can't take your possessions away unless it's a felony. But yet this is just a policy of a platform using civil law. But supposedly it's criminal law converted to civil law. It's a community policy based on criminal law and behaviour that's magically converted into a civil policy because you agree to let them do what they want. But even a criminal judge can't take it. So, and then add on top of all this, right, the 1688 Bill of Rights says that good citizens, that's me, can arm themselves and there can be no law to prevent you, because it's hereby allowed that if any force employed force, that's the police, act and disarm you when they're not following the law, when they're breaking the law, then you're allowed to arm yourselves equally to defend yourselves. Well, I can tell you now, we know the police are breaking the law, that there are 77th Brigade are breaking the law of the Public Meeting Act. 77th Brigade are actually breaking the law. So that means that you can arm yourself equally to defend yourself against 77th Brigade and all their online actions against the channels, right? Because they're breaking the Public Meeting Act. The police have acted unlawfully against the public in fines and they haven't admitted it. Tony Blair has set the judges' oath he's set up all judges to break their oath by messing the law up. We don't have any arrests against Tony Blair. There's the issue over the Liberty of London, toll-free London, when everyone's already paid road tax for the right to be on and use roads that they're paying to maintain. Yet Sadiq Khan's put a double jeopardy tax on those people for using sections of road that they've already paid tax to have the right to use and be on. So it's like it's selling you a jacket and then charging you to wear it, even though you've got a right to wear it because you own it. All these laws they're bringing in now, that you can't wear a red hat in a certain area if we say and all this and that. Bylaws, they're bringing new bylaws in when they said bylaws were backward and retarded. But yet Starmer's going, build back better. So, they decided bylaws were retarded, medieval in the Dark Ages, and now Starmer is loving bylaws. This is great. We can say that even if you live in Coventry, you can't wear red hats. I mean, it's surely, right? I actually think that Starmer is on the verge of if there's a white person who robbed a bank in Coventry, right, running around, I think Starmer's on the verge of saying, right, they count, everyone who's black, get out of Coventry, get out of the centre of Coventry, then we can find the person who's white. On the CCTV cameras, everyone take your masks off. Everyone who's got a red hat on, just put it away. I'm getting to the point now where, if they're after criminals in Coventry who are white, then they'll like put a lockdown on black people so they can't leave the houses, so they can try to find the white person more easily on the cameras. I think that's where they're going. That would be joke. That really would be. But that's the way they're going with this. How do you solve it? Well, to start with, I don't think that they've been making the place better. Like I said, in the 17 and 1800s with the Industrial Revolution, the crime went through the roof. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were talking about it in Parliament, in Hansard, and they said, yeah, we'll take it, we'll take the hit. We like this new wealth, we'll take the hit. Crime's gone through the roof, but we're doing all right. I'm all right, Jack. We'll take the hit of the crime. We can get them under control with the police, and tough luck for them. We're not going to split as money with them. We're not going to split as profits. We're going to keep as fake inflation. We'll shrapnel the place. There's Bourneville. Cadbury's today, Birmingham tomorrow, nice little village with a cottage, and then next thing, poof, it's shrapnelled. This is the problem. They don't know when to stop. And then you've got Sunak going, oh, progress, I want to keep Britain at the forefront of progress. Well, he's getting to the forefront of a big mess, isn't it, Rishi? To keep Britain at the forefront of a big mess. They don't want to keep at the forefront because 1 minute Thatcher and Cameron is selling everything off and moving all production over to China, right? So all of the design offices are in England and all of the headquarters are in England, and then they're manufacturing everything in China. This is what Nigel Farage was talking about. Rishi, you didn't want to keep Britain at the forefront of manufacturing at all, because you moved all the production over to China and you made very cheap trade routes with the cheapest postage and packaging and no import duty. But yeah, if you buy a £8 second-hand jacket from a Samaritan in America, then now I'm getting charged £40 shipping. Right, a good citizen, a good Samaritan in America who's got a nice 1980s jacket that's in good condition, and I only want £8 for it. Well, it's a good Samaritan. And then Donald Trump comes along and he goes, I'll buy that for $1. Well, you can buy that for $1, but I want 40 quid out of it for shipping. So this fake inflation. Some Samaritan does me a good deed for $8, and Donald Trump thinks he deserves 40 fucking quid to fucking give me it. He's not the good Samaritan with his fake inflation and his fake fucking oil fucking rig inflation and his fake banana planting inflation. He's a cunt. So, we're being run by charlatans, and it's about time we got someone in charge who was not lying. And the fact is, there's that much being done wrong that we've got a history of corruption. Tony Blair, unless Blair is prosecuted in the Supreme Court, I don't care what his title is, it doesn't matter if you're a Knight of the Realm. Why is it that all through the 1640s, we've got knights in the Tower of London? We've got more knights in the Tower of London than knights there are in a week, right? They're all in the Tower of London, Sir Walter Raleigh, they're all going in the Tower of London, all these knights. So is displeased Her Majesty, But when it's now, what has happened? Savile, after he's popped his clogs, why isn't Sir Nick Clegg in the Tower of London? He's breached his Facebook have breached the Public Meeting Act, violated the Public Meeting Act and encouraged it. Why isn't Nick Clegg in the Tower of London? Why isn't Sir Tony Blair in the Tower of London? You know, it's all right if they, you know, sniff the wrong hand of Her Majesty's glove or something, then they're straight in the Tower, aren't they? Oh, Tony Blair, he sniffed the Queen's knickers, and there's, you know, Lady Pumpernickel's knickers hanging out his back pocket. Oh, you've displeased Her Majesty, now you're going to the Tower of London, but not Sir Keir Starmer. No, it's the professionals, you know, with his, you know, super Keir Starmer's MI5 glasses, with his fucking tracking chip, you know, and his mini microphone, and God knows what he's got in there. His dad's toolmaker. He's probably got a little sonic screwdriver in there as well, you know, like, you know, Mark Zuckerberg would be creaming his pants, you know, if he knew the technology that was in Starmer's new secret spy glasses. You know, this is it. You know, he could probably take Donald Trump out with those new secret spy glasses. Starmer's probably got a micro dart in there that could probably take Donald Trump out with a fucking viewfinder in. He's probably got like automatic. He's probably got automatic target locking on it. It's probably got automatic target locking on it. Starmer could probably take Trump out from 140 metres with his micro fucking dart out of his fucking new MI5 glasses. Never mind some, you know, American gun club reject or whatever it was. You know, this is the problem with this country. Tech, we need to stop making a mess, and then we need to have, you know, they had the act of indemnity, and they had the act of grace. We need a national conference. There needs to be a national conference, a national consultation over absolutely everything. The biggest public consultation what has ever been done in the history of the planet, in what we all think the face of the country should be like, and what we want and what our interests are. And it should all be, you know, this is what AI should be used for, to sort it out without it being corrupted. And then we should build and do things. We need to pause and stop. This is the problem. But, you know, Keir Starmer, he's got his foot on the accelerator, yet he's, you know, complaining that everyone else he needs to take the foot off the accelerator. This is the problem. You know, all this tech should be used, but the World Economic Forum aren't bothered what other people think. It's just an electronic impulse. So it's, you know, Rishi Sunak, oh, your temperature's too high, you're getting too angry, I'll just Bluetooth you, you know, calm down, sir. Well, I'm sorry, that's a natural reaction, you know, you just built a fucking biscuit factory next to my daughter's pony field, you know, Rishi, I'm angry, I'm furious. No, you won't be after I finish tweaking down your temperature by 3 degrees on my coffee control cup, beep. Now, look at this gentleman, he's got no objection at all to me building a biscuit factory next to his daughter's pony. Look at this, I don't see any anger or reaction at all. In fact, if he did, it would be illegal. You know, you can, you know, see, obviously the gentleman is not bothered at all. You know, when I finished with him, you know, this is it. And this is the World Economic Forum actually controlling and tweaking people's responses, emotions and reactions to what they're doing en masse, and even making it illegal, which basically means that, you know, it's illegal to oppose them. You know, that's the goal. That's the goal. I don't think Starmer is satisfied with the right to defence. In fact, that he says, you know, when it comes to the Lords, in the House of Lords, the hereditary Lords, apparently it's indefensible. So, you know, this is it. You know, indefensible. That not Klaus Schwab's vision? An indefensible population. You know. So that's it effectively. I mean, if it wasn't for freedom of movement, we wouldn't have evolved, and no other life on Earth would have evolved. And they're wanting to reduce the freedom of movement and opinion, and program it to be uniform like Optimus, with just enough, not enough movement to flourish and evolve like the life on planet Earth, but to leave its home in the only place it was possible for it to become Optimus, it has to leave it behind and go into space where it can survive in a hostile environment where now it's been equipped, going where no Optimus has gone before, into space with very, very cold, hardly any movement, but yet Optimus can resist the coldness of space, the lack of warmth and heat, and then occasionally charge up by another sun or planet, or even create a new planet somewhere else of humans, even though we've got another 1,000,000 years left here and there's no rush. There's no rush to get to the seaside for a holiday, but Starmer says, we can't stop now. Don't stop me now. We're on the verge of, we've got to keep ahead of the Russians. So, that's my opinion.